Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider TV. As mentioned, it comes to you courtesy of Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. We appreciate their sponsorship. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. And before we look ahead to the third Saturday in October, let's look back to the second Saturday. Alabama got the win against Texas A&M, and that's the bottom line. But it wasn't pretty. Alabama had plenty of mistakes, plenty of miscues, plenty of opportunities to let the game get away. And because of what many consider a lackadaisical performance, Crimson Tide dropped from number 1 to number 3 in the AP Top 25 poll. But the Tide did win the game 24-20. Jalen Milroe threw 3 touchdown passes, which ties the record for an Alabama quarterback in his first start. Cameron Latou, he hit Burton. He hit Brooks. There's Brooks, Burton on the slant. He hit Brooks on a crossing route. He did a lot of good things, Rodney. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. And he led Alabama to the victory. But at the same time, the turnovers, which we'll get into in a moment, almost cost Alabama this game. But the defense stood up time and time again, put in some tough spots because of turnovers. And there at the end of the game, had a goal line stand on a last play at the 2-yard line. So you know what, Rodney? After what happened at College Station last year when Alabama didn't win, and a tough night for Will Rocker to have his first off night, really, of his career, missing 2 field goals. He did make that 50-yarder, but he missed a 47-yarder and a 34-yarder. So all in all, Rodney, it's a lot better outcome than it could have been.
It really is. I know on that last play, your heart was thumping, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, there was a lot of Alabama fans, certainly, that was a very difficult moment there at the end. But I'll say this, Gary. Listen, everything played out the way Texas A&M drew it up. I mean, even their penalties worked in their favor. They had those 2 false starts there on that drive where they were going to go for it on 4th down, ended up kicking the field goal, which would have given them the opportunity to win that game. And then the last play, Terry and Arnold made a nice play, by the way.
Yeah, and when everything does go your way like it did for Texas A&M, to have a chance to hang into the game, Alabama could never separate. And when you have 4 turnovers, you miss 2 field goals, you have some other scoring opportunities that you don't cash in on. Most teams, and Alabama's not most teams, I get it, but most teams would not have been able to overcome that and win the game.
Yeah, again, it's set up perfectly. A&M had a lot of momentum. They made some plays. You saw the catch that Evan Stewart made. He makes it in between 2 defenders. It looks like Terry and Arnold has the interception. But, again, it just seemed like one of those games, Gary, when you got down near the end, kind of like last year's Texas A&M game. They were making the plays at the end. Seemed like maybe they were going to pull it out. But, again, great defensive stop.
Let's talk about the positives on offense. 288 yards rushing. Jahmyr Gibbs, 21 carries for 154 yards. He was fantastic. Again, Jalen did complete 12 of 19 for 111 yards. Not a lot of yards, but 3 touchdowns. The 1 interception really didn't hurt. It was on a 3rd and 12. It was like a punt. But those 2 fumbles, as we said, were killers. Jermaine Burton coming through with 3 receptions for 44 yards and a score. So even though it wasn't a great offensive game for Milroe, the running game picked him up. I thought the offensive line really blocked well in the run game, and he did throw those 3 touchdown passes. So hopefully, you've got Bryce Young back against Tennessee, but I think there's some things to build on for Milroe in this game. And Nick Saban said he had some anxiety. I thought he looked a little nervous out there at times.
Well, listen, again, you talked about it, the turnovers. If he doesn't turn those 2 fumbles over, doesn't throw the interception right before halftime, although that did not come back to haunt Alabama, I would say this, Gary, 11 of 19, or 12 of 19, 111 yards, 3 touchdowns, as you mentioned. Had a chance to be a really efficient night. Had about 83 yards rushing. Alabama ran the ball extremely well. I know Nick Saban said yesterday that it wasn't one of the offensive line's better games, but they were playing against a really good defensive front. They rushed for 326 yards before the sacks. With the sacks, it was 288 net. But that's a pretty good rushing night against a defense that knows what you're going to do. They know your quarterback's a little shaky. They know that the passing game may not be consistent. So Texas A&M could do some things defensively to try to stop Alabama's run, and I thought Alabama still ran the ball really well.
Turnovers are an issue. Alabama, throughout its history, and Nick Saban has forced a lot of them and hasn't turned it over often. They're working at a big turnover deficit this season, including 4-1 on Saturday night. As well as the defense played, they're not forcing a lot of turnovers, although they did have a late interception by Jordan Battle that was overturned because of that pass interference to set up that final play. They're not forcing a lot of turnovers, and then clearly you can't turn the ball over 4 times every week and expect to win all your games.
I tell you what, they better not turn it over 4 times this Saturday, because if they do, would be a really, really long day in Knoxville. And they got away with it this time. They won't get away with it again in a game up in Knoxville.
And one final thought, and this is a compliment to Texas A&M. I don't mean this as a shot, but we're used to it with Alabama. A&M, if they would play the last 2 years against everybody the way they played against Alabama, they probably wouldn't be losing 4 games last year and already losing 3 this year. I mean, they put together a good performance. They have a lot of things that they don't use against anybody else. I thought Haynes King played his best game, and those receivers, they're talented. You've got a couple guys out there that can really play, but they made some grabs that were highlight reel material.
Yeah, Evan Stewart, true freshman, Chris Marshall, another true freshman. Muhammad's a really good player. All those guys contributed. They tied in. They got him. They always get the tight end involved, especially against Alabama. That throwback pass, and I was a little worried, Gary, on that last play that they might try to do that again.
Yeah, great coverage by Terry and Arnold on that final play, though, with that little corner pylon route that even if he'd caught the ball, he would not have scored a touchdown. All right, it's now time for Coach Talk. Alabama is 6-0, but like we've been discussing, there have been moments of inconsistency this season. And on Monday, Crimson Tide head coach Nick Saban was asked how he would assess the first half of the season. Saban's answer was simple. He believes in his team when it's focused and playing at the level that it's capable of.
Everybody looks at people's flaws, and those things get exposed if you don't do things correctly. And I think the big thing that we need to do is make sure that we're doing things correctly, collectively as a group on a more consistent basis. When we do that, I think we have a very good team. When we haven't done that, we're pretty average.
And that's the challenge for the second half of the season. Alabama's navigated its way to this point to be 6-0, won a couple huge road games at Texas and Arkansas, got a big one coming up at Tennessee. But to reach the ultimate goal, which is the SEC championship, the college football playoff, and then finally a national championship, they are going to have more consistency in their performances.
Yeah, they really are. And Gary, you look at it defensively, I feel good about where Alabama is for the most part defensively. They're obviously one of the top 10 defenses in the country, maybe higher in some categories. You look at the offensive line, I think they're really developing under Eric Wolford very, very well. The running backs, you see how suddenly Jahmyr Gibbs is becoming that guy we thought he would be, maybe becoming the explosive, dynamic playmaker. He's going to be a guy, too, that's going to contribute really, really big plays in the passing game, I think, as we move forward. But so they got the running game going. The question is, are you going to get Bryce Young back? Will he be in a rhythm? I mean, when you miss 2 weeks, that you're talking about a rhythm thing. So hopefully Bryce is back, and if he is, will he be in rhythm?
It's the era of the portal, social media, NIL, and Alabama quarterback Eli Ricks caused a stir today on his Instagram page when he put this picture out of him in an LSU uniform with the song lyrics, "I know what to do, then come back you." Many fans started seeing this and wondering what was up. Nothing else was posted. I can tell you that he was at practice this afternoon. We saw the video that UA sent out. Listen, most people expected him to transfer here and be a starter. He had an incident in the offseason with DUI and speeding. And quite frankly, he and
Curry
Jackson have played a lot at corner behind the 2 starters, Kool-Aid and Terry and Arnold. But the bottom line is they didn't play much, if all, against Texas A&M. I know there's some frustration there, but you got to keep working. You got to play better and get your opportunities and take advantage.
Yeah, and I think too, like you said, Gary, he came here. He had an injury last year that really put him out a good part of the season at LSU. I think when he got here in the spring, he was a little behind physically, had a lot of strength and weight that he needed to regain. And I think all of those things in terms of learning a new system, the way Alabama does things, I think that probably set him back a little bit in terms of what his expectations were. As you mentioned, yeah, he naturally thought he would come in here, be a starter. But again, I think the competition here that he's gotten, obviously Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terry and Arnold did a great job. Curry Jackson's also been in the mix. He's just going to have to kind of bide his time and wait his opportunity.
Yeah, in Alabama, you get an opportunity to get better as a backup, and that's what I think he needs to focus on. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, we'll preview what to expect during Saturday's top 10 matchup in Knoxville. Also, Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide land a new 4-star recruit that has serious ties to Auburn. He's a legacy for the Tigers. And coming up later, we'll welcome your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen or tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV will return right after this.
We got to prepare the right way. We got to practice well, and the playing part of it will take care of itself. So, you know, the outside noise has no bearing on how we play, and let's go compete and be our best on game day.
And welcome back to TITV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Well, this Saturday is going to be special for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's the first time Tennessee's been unbeaten entering this game since 1998. And Rodney, as remarkable as it sounds, it's the first time that both teams have been ranked in the top 10 since 1989. That was at Legion Field. Bill Curry for Alabama, Johnny Majors for Tennessee. Alabama won that one 47-30. Saran Stacy ran crazy.
Exploded
in that game.
Had a big day.
But so for Tennessee, this is where they haven't been in a while. And they got there moving up to number 6 by beating LSU at Tiger Stadium on Saturday 40-13 convincingly. It was Tennessee's first win over the Bayou Bengals since 2005. Both the Vols and the Crimson Tide will enter this rivalry game with undefeated records. As I said, for the first time since 1989, Alabama is currently a 7.5-point favorite over the Vols for Saturday's 2:30 kickoff at Neyland Stadium. So Alabama is still favored, although there are a lot of people that feel like Tennessee is going to break through this year. Let's discuss the Vols. And we're going to start, of course, with Hendon Hooker. You know, sometimes you don't know what you have. Peak in 1989, Gary Hollingsworth. Nobody knew what he was going to do when he came in and had an incredible year. Hendon Hooker transferred in from Virginia Tech. He was a good quarterback at Virginia Tech, but he wasn't great. And remember, last season, it was the transfer from Michigan that started Joe Milton, that started ahead of Hooker. Then Hooker takes over, and the rest is history. Rodney, he's a phenomenal quarterback. His interception to touchdown ratio is the best in the country. He can make big plays with his arm and with his legs, and that's a player that we've seen when Alabama's lost games in the past. Incredible quarterback play has been a big part of that. He's capable of having one of those kind of games.
He's really capable. He's gone 140 straight passes without an interception. He doesn't have an interception this season. They're throwing for 340-plus yards a game, so that kind of gives you an idea about their explosiveness. I mean, they have some big physical receivers. Brew McCoy was a high school teammate of Bryce Young at Mater Dei. 6'3", 220 pounds. He's really starting to come around. He's a transfer. Remember, he was at Texas. He was at USC. Now he ends up at Tennessee. He's really good. Jalen Hyatt's another fantastic receiver. They've got a core, Gary. Now, the question is, will Cedric Tillman play? He had the high ankle sprain, had that tightrope procedure. I don't think he'll play, but if you remember last year, 7 catches, 152 against Alabama. He had a really big game. Now, when you kind of look back at last year, Alabama's defense had a lot of success against Tennessee. There was a streak there, 6 or 7 straight series where Alabama held them 3 and out. Tennessee only had 10 first downs in the game. Now, they did have several big plays, 3 or 4 big plays. That's how they generated their points. But Alabama won going away, of course.
All right, for Tennessee, there is an issue. One of their team captains, Jalen McCullough, outstanding defensive back, was arrested Sunday for aggravated assault. And you would think he would not be playing on Saturday. Nothing's been announced, but that's a pretty serious charge, and he'd be a big loss for their defense.
Well, you would think. But it is Tennessee, and let me say this. I'm hearing out of Tennessee that maybe there's some evidence that is to the contrary of what he was charged with, and that he may play.
All right.
So we'll see.
All right, Alabama practicing, of course, this afternoon in full pads to get ready for the Vols. Let's get to recruiting. Bama picking up a new commit for the 2025 season. All right, this young man, I know it's 2025, but he is a really explosive athlete. Ryan Williams, if the name sounds familiar, his dad was a defensive back at Auburn only like 11, 12 years ago. And now he is a player that said, hey, you know what? Alabama's got everything I want. I'm going to go ahead and commit. Dynamic athlete, one of these guys that you get the ball in his hands and he can do some special things.
You know, Gary, you think he might be willing to forego his last couple of years of high school? I mean, it looks like he's ready to play right now. Yeah, that's a long way to go. It's a big pickup. I mean, you always like to get top-notch players committed to you, but again, the class of 2025 is a little ways away.
He's out of Saraland High School there in the Mobile area. And early commitments like this, Rodney, a lot of times people will raise an eyebrow and say, you know, it's still 2 years away. But more times than not, when a player's highly recruited like this and commits early, they wind up signing with the original team they commit to.
Listen, I hope so. I really do, because like you said, he's a very dynamic player. He's got the bloodlines, Gary. He's going to be in a couple of years. I mean, this guy is going to be, he's already rated a 5-star in his class. He'll be one of the top 5-10 players in that group.
All right, we're going to take a time out here on the program, but when we come back, we'll have much more on TITV, including phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882, or you can email us at the address on your screen. Want to hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We always enjoy that. We'll be back right after this. Alabama soccer just keeps moving on up. The Crimson Tide is now up to number 2 in all of the major polls. That's incredible. Bama's won 9 straight matches, including wins last week over SEC foes Ole Miss and LSU. That's the Thursday match against the Rebels. Felicia Knox there with an incredible corner kick. Alabama kept the pressure on all night. The goal there, and they were doing it on both ends, dominating the Rebels, and then, of course, dominated LSU as well. Look at that header right there. Rodney, they're playing at a really high level. It's exciting. All right, welcome back into the program. Time to get to some phone calls, and we're going to lead it off with Dale down Highway 69 South in Moundville. Hey, Dale, how are you?
Hey, Gary and Rodney, thanks for taking my call. My question was about those players that's listed there, their availability: Tyler Harrell, Aaron Anderson, and Earl Little Jr., but my real question was the cheetah package. I noticed that J. Merriam Latham was on the cheetah package from Pickens County. I like to see that, but I just wondered if it would be wise to leave that cheetah package out there as fast as Tennessee runs their offense. I know it's for a passing, but I just wondered what y'all's thoughts were.
All right, Dale, good questions. As far as the Cheetahs package, yeah, it is a kind of a pass-specific defense because they go with the 3 pass rushers, Anderson, Turner, and Braswell. Plus, as you said, Jamarian Latham was in there one time. Jamel Burrows, a little faster, quicker defensive lineman. But if you leave it in there all the time, you're susceptible to getting run on straight ahead too. So it's kind of a pick your spot package.
Yeah, and we talk about how explosive Tennessee is, and they really run the ball pretty well. They run it for over 200 yards a game. Jabari Small's a really good back. And Hooker, you have to be really careful because he's an outstanding runner as well. So, again, I think Alabama mix it up according to what, they feel Tennessee's doing offensively.
And as far as Tyler Harrell, the transfer from Louisville, could see him this week. And Aaron Anderson, the freshman wide receiver, Earl Little Jr., freshman defensive back. They're freshmen trying to get healthy. Don't know this late in the season how much of an impact they'll make. But I do think at some point Tyler Harrell is going to be out there offensively.
Yeah, you would think. We keep hearing, again, you keep hearing scuttlebutt that he will be. And his speed certainly is something that I think Alabama fans are looking forward to seeing at that wide receiver position. You mentioned those 2 young freshmen, Gary. They're going to be outstanding players. Aaron Anderson, a really dynamic player with the ball in his hands. Earl Little, going to be a great defensive back.
All right, we're going to get to the break. We'll come back. John in Walker County, we'll get to you when we return here on this edition of TITV. Welcome back. Let's get to our email question. And it is the email question of the day, brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family. Gary, what happened to your Saturday show? I always watched it and miss it. We watch Tider Insider every week. Donna from Tuscaloosa. Donna, we appreciate that. Crimson Tide kickoff ran for 12 seasons from 2010 through 2021. We love doing the show. Pandemic kind of changed that show. We had been all over campus. It became a studio show. A lot of the interviews were Zoom interviews, and we just decided that it was time to put more emphasis on our Friday night show and obviously Tider Insider TV. We appreciate you watching it. You never know it could return in the future, but that's what happened to Crimson Tide Kickoff. But it did run for 12 seasons. All right, let's get to a phone call. John in Walker County. Hey, John, how are you?
Just fine. How are y'all, sir?
Doing well.
First thing I want to ask you, they're going to let Young play Saturday, and you're going to try to keep it quiet this Saturday. And we have got the key on Hooker all night long. We can't let him on the outside. I'll run up the middle. We have got to put the pressure on the quarterback to stay in the ball game. And these fumbles last Saturday was ridiculous. Like Ronnie said, 4 of them this weekend would be through.
All right, John, those are great points. Yeah, you got to control Hooker. There's no doubt about it. And no, I don't think you're going to announce a quarterback. Might as well make Tennessee prepare for both of them.
I think so. I think and he's right about Hooker. I mean, he's so dangerous, Gary, with the ball. And Alabama did a good job on him last year for the most part.
All right, real quickly, we're going to get to Jason in Brilliant. Hey, Jason, how are you?
Good. What happened to Ty Simpson that's always talked about last year, being the number 1 pocket passer? Evidently, he's not very good if he can't beat the one we had.
Jason, I don't know about that. Listen, Jalen Milroe's the backup quarterback. It was his game. Ty Simpson's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, and a lot of ability. But it was the number 2 quarterback that takes over when the first quarterback goes out. It was his game. And you know, they're going to compete next year with a couple other quarterbacks for the starters, but I think both of them are good players.
Yeah, I think the plan all along was that, Gary. The competition between Ty Simpson and Milroe, you've got 2 freshmen coming in, is going to be next spring. And so I really think the thought was Ty would kind of stay on the back burner until then. You know, is there a chance that maybe if Bryce Young's out an extended period of time, you might eventually see Ty? I mean, I don't know that. But, yeah, Ty's a very, very talented player.
All right, we'll be back with predictions right after this. All right, welcome back into TITV. It's prediction time for Alabama and Tennessee. Rodney, you lead us off.
Well, you know, Gary, I think when you look at Tennessee, I've said it, they're one of the more explosive, maybe the most explosive offense in the country. And not only are they explosive, they're playing with a lot of energy, they're playing with a lot of enthusiasm, and you know they're really motivated. But you know what? I still think Alabama has the better players. If Alabama plays up their potential, they win the game. I've got it 34-27.
Yeah, it should be a good game. It should be a competitive game. All right, let me go with my analysis on this game. I still think Alabama's a better football team than Tennessee. Just my opinion. I think Tennessee's really good. I think that Hendon Hooker is a playmaker. I think Bryce Young's going to play in the game. And I think Alabama's broken a lot of hearts since Nick Saban's been here. He's gone into a lot of situations where the home team said, this is our year. Didn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen for the Vols. I think Alabama's going to win it in a shootout. I think Tennessee's going to score, but I think Alabama's going to wind up winning it by 11, 42-31 is my score prediction for Saturday afternoon at Neyland Stadium. All right, that is going to do it for TITV. Thanks for tuning in. It's been presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 following the news at 10 or online anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you with practice video from Alabama's practice this afternoon. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night.